Hey everybody. So we're going to talk about some fun sales that we had in the month of March. I just decided to pick some of the more noteworthy or the more interesting ones. Part of March we were on vacation and our stores were shut down, and so it was kind of easy to just kind of pick and choose. I think once I got to Etsy, I just shared everything that sold because there's really not a ton. But let's start off with eBay as usual. We had some flip-flops. I just wanted to make sure, again, you know this brand, Alakai. We usually pick up any Alakai sandals that are in good condition. This pair sold for $39.99. Let's see if my computer will cooperate. Oh, this was a really good sale. This was Polo Ralph Lauren. They call it can also be called a Harrington jacket. I think I've had problems in the past with that as a keyword. Maybe it's something proprietary for somebody, but they also call these bi-swing jackets. This was something we picked up at Goodwill. Polo Ralph Lauren, I think it had a little bit of staining, but we were able to get that out. And so we did get $70 for this, and it was fairly quick actually that it sold. So, Polo Ralph Lauren is having a little bit of a moment again. I think I've talked about that in videos in the past, especially the vintage stuff. It's just really popular again. So I don't know that I would necessarily pick up, unless you're getting it at a good price, just kind of basic button shirts or anything like that. But if you can find jackets or pants or anything, obviously there's a lot of Polo Ralph Lauren things that have always been good sellers. Some of the graphics, some of the very vintage 90s type things have always been worth picking up. But this was just kind of a basic beige golf jacket, and like I said, we got $70 for that. Then over here, what's coming up next? Oh, this wasn't like a huge sale, but I just wanted to point it out because these types of little ornate frames always sell really well for us. And I think I pulled these out of our profit pile somewhere in the back in our storage, and they sold like within a day, probably for and I'm scrolling down to try to find, but sometimes I save these up. If I have like a bunch of them, I'll try to put them together, but this particular time I decided to just go ahead and list what I had, and I think I just got $20. Maybe it was 24. Sorry, I try to have these things ready, but I am out of practice. How are you guys doing? I have not talked to you guys in a bit. Okay, so yes, they sold for $25. And like I said, they sold really quickly, like within a day or so. So keep an eye out, even if these little kind of old-fashioned pictures are still in them. And these were small. These were just like 4 or 5 inches. They weren't like the big, like 8-inch with the bubble glass or anything like that. As you can see from my hand holding it, they're pretty small. Just wanted to mention that as something that sells fairly quickly. Here is some ink, printer ink that we picked up at the thrift store. I don't find this super often anymore. But we got $72, $71.99 for this 2-pack, and then there was another little extra pack sitting next to it. I don't remember what we paid, and it probably took a couple weeks to sell, is what I would say. But as you can see from the back, it was a 2-pack. I don't know if this was something that was sold at Costco originally, but if people are looking for it, then they'll pay for it. Okay, let's see what's next. Oh, I wanted to share some more of this flatware that sold. We had this. Okay, that's what it was. I sold a bunch of this to one buyer. They paid $263.82 total. So this is my Oneida obelisk that I have talked about several times over my What Sold videos. That I found a big lot of it for $15 at a thrift store on a trip one time. And so this person bought 6 oval soup spoons, 6 dinner knives, and 6 teaspoons. And they were looking for also the dinner forks and the salad forks, but I had already sold out of all of those. So they bought 18 pieces for $263. I'm sorry, I don't have my running total right now. It's over $1,000, I'm pretty sure, for this set of flatware. But yeah, that was definitely a really good find. This one, I think, yes. Okay, so this was something that we were doing junk lots. We were putting things together into junk lots and gathering up more things. And I think I saved this one out of the junk lot because I knew people like these vintage, or I should say antique eyeglasses. And these were just frames, but the key, you look for the ones that like either on here, on the bridge or whatever, they usually are marked that they're gold filled. These were also a little unusual because of the octagon shape, but these had no glass. They were kind of tweaked a little bit, like not in the greatest condition, and they still sold within a day for $45. So keep an eye out for those antique, someone can restore this, they can put their own prescription in it, and you just don't find stuff like that very often. Here is some language learning Spanish 4 and 5 Pimsleur CDs. This was the gold edition, so it had a ton of discs in it. I found 4 cases like this at our bins, our local clearance store, and it wasn't the complete set. It was like 1 and 2, and then 4 and 5, and 3 was missing. So I opened it to see like there was the majority of the discs. I got home, it turned out that box number 1 had 1 disc missing. So it was probably in someone's like disc player still somewhere. And they never got to 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So what I ended up doing is I put 4 and 5 together, and then I listed number 2 separately, and then that one sold for like $18. It just seems like the higher number of the highest, like up in the higher numbers, would sell better. 4 and 5 sold for, let me find it, $54. And I thought that was a really good return because, I bought these at our bins location, 75 cents a pound. And then I got $18 for Spanish 2. And then I didn't even list Spanish 1. It's the most common one. And then also it was not complete. So I either redonated or I have it around here somewhere. It could be. It's possible. Just wanted to throw, again, not the most valuable thing I've sold, but this spatula for $20. I just wanted to throw that in there as your reminder to not overlook the vintage utensils. This was kind of like a peachy pink. I do pretty good with different like colors of vintage nylon utensils. Sometimes the almond color ones, the plain ones do okay, but if you can find one that's a really good color, an avocado green or an orange or something like that, it can do pretty well. And spatulas are like a perennial favorite. This one was pretty wide and it didn't really have like any burn marks or melt marks or anything like that. So that's what I look for. This I picked up at Goodwill one day. I just did a quick scan of it. Some of these cleaning products get discontinued and people like to have them. So this is an Old English lemon oil spray and it sold for $27. I picked up one recently that I have listed, and that one is Formbees, and that's a brand. Whenever I see one of their products, I look it up because some of their things can be discontinued and super popular. And so the Formbees that I picked up is also a lemon spray, and I think I have it listed for like $60 or $70, and mine is full, and the comps kind of bear that out. So I'm still waiting to see if that sells anytime soon, but I just wanted to have just as a little reminder to check that out. Here was another Goodwill find. I was kind of excited to see these. These were kind of shrink wrapped all together. They're just little crystal salt cellars, but I love the fact that they have the plastic spoons that go with it. I didn't have the full amount of spoons. There were 12 little salt cellars, and they were just made in Japan. I think it was marked on the bottom of the box. But Anne was the name of the pattern, and it had little foil stickers still. But anyway, those sold within a couple days. Those sold really fast for $39.99. I paid $3.99, so I don't know. I do the math what my return on investment was. I'm not good at stuff like that. Okay, this is ephemera. It's just an advertisement for a guitar, a certain style guitar. It was pretty cool though. It had this like glassine kind of paper cover to it, and it was just this 2-page advertisement for a store, from a store. And don't ask me, I don't know. I have ephemera sometimes just kind of in my house. Things I've just picked up, whether this was part of a bigger lot, I don't even really remember, but $30 for that piece of advertisement. I do like ephemera. I wish I came across it more often. That I feel is something that you'll see at estate sales, yard sales and things like that. Not so much thrift stores. I don't even know what happens to the paper that gets donated to thrift stores. Unless you guys have thrift stores that you go to that will sell stuff like that. You can let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so I am just throwing this one Lenox spice jar because I finally sold the last of these spice jars in March. I sold 4 of them to one person. She asked me which ones I had left. So I gave her the list of what I had left. So she bought all of them. And I went ahead and did $15 a piece on this. So at one point, once these sold, I added it up, and I think it was like $550 or something for all of them once I put them all together. So I may have been able to get a similar amount if I had lotted them up. So that might have been maybe a better choice. But people were able to get the replacements that they wanted. And I accepted offers kind of all over the place. Some did sell for $30 and some sold for $25. But yeah, I will definitely be on the lookout for more, any kind of Lenox spice jar series type things. This was a fun sale. Again, something that sold pretty quickly. I found this in a bag at Goodwill on the bag wall, and I recognized, the custard glass was most likely going to be reactive. It was going to glow. And I had just sold another souvenir little kind of piece like this that glowed, that sold really fast. So when I saw it in the bag, I was like, you know what, I'm going to grab that. Now, there wasn't any exact comps, especially for this Wilton, North Dakota Washburn mine thing. There were other things for that mine. And so I just randomly, I threw a price on it for $40, and it sold pretty quickly. Could I maybe have gotten more? I don't know, but I was totally happy with that. The bags was $2.99, $3.99 at the most. And so I was happy to get that onto a collector. Whether it was a Washburn mine collector or I think it got sent to North Dakota. So I'm pretty sure it was someone who just collected stuff from that area. Not necessarily like a uranium glass collector or something. Let's go over to Poshmark. Poshmark, what I wanted to emphasize in these Poshmark sales is you'll see most of them are vintage items. And I'm really trying to make sure that I cross-post my vintage over to Poshmark because it's become like my little vintage shop. I've had some, I still sell clothing there. I still sell things like that, but obviously clothing still does pretty well, but don't overlook throwing, kitchenware, all these types of things over to Poshmark. So this was just a really cool wrought iron bowl that I picked up. $25. I sold it for $25. I just got it at my little thrift store, but these are made in Spain usually, and this one was marked on the bottom Spain. And like I said, sold for $25. kind of thought it would be an Etsy thing. Here's another thing that we thought would be an Etsy thing for sure. This is a Mr. Pish Posh listing, and he found this, and we did have it listed on Etsy for a while. I guess it's a storage drawer for cigars. Something, when he looked it up, Panther, I guess was the cigar company. But anyway, it was just this modular little storage thing, but the colors were so cool. And obviously you can use it for many other things, but $66, it sold on Poshmark for $66. We had it kind of high on Etsy and on eBay because my husband found comps that were kind of up there. And so it just blew me away that it was Poshmark that it sold on first. So yes, I do still sell clothing on Poshmark. Obviously these Ariat jeans were men's. They sold for $30. I think I paid like $5. It was a half off day at the clothing store, and they were marked 10. But I knew they were kind of a good size, a little bit longer. And so they actually moved really quickly, which I like that about Poshmark. A lot of times good clothing items get put on Posh. They get seen pretty quickly and sell pretty quickly. Again, an item I thought would sell on Etsy, this mid-century tri-fold hinged frame. I actually have 3 of these. I picked them up at the bin, so I do have another one listed right now. But they are all connected, these 3 frames. Like I said, it's tri-fold, and they fold down really like flat and nice. So the shipping is actually not that bad on that, but then it stands up and you can kind of adjust it a little bit. $30 for that frame. I sold these sock monkey. This is a sock monkey kit or a sock elephant kit, or you could just wear the Rockford red heel socks. But anyway, it was just kind of a classic. My first picture is a collage so that you could see both sides of it. But anyway, I just thought that was a fun pickup. I paid like $2 at the thrift store. Sold for $21. This was a Woolrich blanket line chore coat. I did pay up a little bit for this one. And then I got home and I was like, I don't know, maybe I paid too much. Don't ask me what I paid. It was 20 or over. And so I was like, I hope I can get a good price. And then I was looking at comps and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I did look at comps in the store, but it just, maybe because it was women's, the comps just weren't that great. And so I was thrilled at the end of the year. Someone just paid full price. They just paid full price on Poshmark for $90. And so we ended up doing okay profit-wise. Okay, let's talk about the country geese. The country geese are having a moment again, guys. And so, again, this is something I got a little bit of a better price on Poshmark than comps were showing on eBay. But I usually go high on Poshmark, so I have room for offers and things like that. These sold for $19. You know, not big money, but when I listed these, when I found these at the thrift store, again, bag wall at Goodwill, when I found these, I dug out some of my other country geese stuff that I'd thrown in a box I hadn't gotten to, because I knew the trend was picking up. And so pretty much everything I've listed, I had like 5 or 6 different things, and they've all sold. So they're not crazy money, but it's a trend right now. So I've crossed it to Posh and to Depop and places like that, and all those pieces have sold fairly quickly. Next up is Marimekko. I think I shared this with you in a thrifting video, but I found these pillowcases. Again, these sold pretty quickly once I cross-posted them to Poshmark. And they're just striped. Like I said, just pillowcases sold for $30. Let's hop over to Etsy. I think I don't need this. I need this one. This is a really good one. Okay, let's hide you. This is a Bodum Bistro mug. It's sold for $54, and you might be like, what? I see I see Bodum all the time. This particular style, it's pretty short, pretty small, but it's the style that Jean-Luc Picard drinks his Earl Grey tea out of on Star Trek The Next Generation. So that sold for $54. And we found four of them. I can't remember. 3 or 4 of them we found at the bins. And then we were getting them listed, and Mr. Bushbush made the realization that this was the Star Trek one. And I knew about the Star Trek one, but I didn't have like the shape absolutely memorized in my head. But we do okay selling little Bodum glass teacups, or coffee cups. And so we had grabbed them and then found out what they were. So we decided to list them individually. And I've sold one other one, and I might have told you about it already, but $54. And I think we have 1 or 2 more to sell. I got to double check that they're listed, actually. And here's a Boynton mug, Sandra Boynton, sold for $24. And I think I shared this one with you in a past video as well. On the other side, upside down, it says, "Don't worry, I've got everything under control." And so that's kind of fun. $24 on Etsy. Another $24 sale. I picked this up at the bins. It's called Fire and Ice. It's a recipe book. Hawaiian and Alaskan, whatever you call it, recipe book. So usually if you can find something a little bit unusual in these little kind of home printed, whatever you want to call it, recipe books, you can do pretty well. So this one sold for $24, and somebody actually messaged me later on eBay because it ended on eBay once it sold on Etsy, and they had been looking for it, but they were just a little bit too late. I have about 8 of these Denby England Greenwich Craftsman coffee mugs I picked up one day at the thrift store. I'm just selling them one at a time, and so this one sold on, I think I have the quantity listed, but this one sold on Etsy for $18. Then again, another little bins clearance store find was this little shaving soap glass mug, hardly weighed anything. It sold for $15 on Etsy. Again, it's one of those things I like cross-posting to Etsy and to various places because there were a few listed and a few sold on eBay, but it ended up not being super rare like I kind of expected it to be. But there wouldn't be a whole lot of competition over on Etsy, and so it sold there for $15. This was one of those items that had been listed a while. It was on Ruby Lane for a while, and once it sold, I was like, oh, I wonder where that is. But it was exactly where I had left it, so it wasn't too hard to find. It's just a souvenir pillowcase. I think like war era, so this is like 40s, 50s, but this is a souvenir of Canada. The red parts are flocked, like a flocked felt or velvet feel kind of thing. I don't know if we can it's kind of hard to tell from the picture, but it ended up selling for $20. Here's one of the Barbie things I had mentioned in an earlier video. This outfit sold for $45. I had bought a doll case back whether last summer or the summer before, and it was all kind of musty smelling, and so I had put now the name of it is going to be out of my head. I'll try to maybe put up a picture and a link down below, but I got the odors out of some of this older doll furniture by using Ozium. That's what it's called. I'll put a link down below. It'll be an affiliate link. But basically, I just put everything in a plastic bin with this little cake of Ozium, and it absorbs the odors, and it actually works really good. So this wasn't the original, I don't think, purse that goes with it, but this whole little set was super cute. And like I said, it was from the 60s and it sold for $45. Let's see. Oh, nice sale. I love me my no spill mugs, as I've talked about in videos in the past. This one was a no spill mug, but it was also otagiri, and this pattern is called Horizon Blue or something like that, or just Horizon. And so the pieces in that pattern sell really well. And there weren't, like, it was hard to find other no spill mugs and to kind of get a price. So I put it for like $49, and they're not marked. And so I'm sure people have sold them in the past just as stoneware, not realizing that it was otagiri and a part of that Horizon pattern. I was happy to see that at the thrift store one day. Here's an item that we used to pick up all the time. We would come across these. They're in yellow, avocado green, things like that. The designer is Max Klein, and they're little just plastic desk organizers. We hadn't found one in quite a while, but they always had sold on Etsy for us. And again, this is something, it sells a little bit higher on Etsy than it does on eBay. And then this was just a fun sale. I had picked it up at an estate sale a while back, and it took a little while to sell, but it's a egg souvenir on a stand. It depicts Mount Vernon, and then I think the bottom, yeah, let's see, that's all it says. George Washington's Mount Vernon. So it actually told me. And then the egg, let's see, there was something about something museum collection, Russian classics or something like that is who was behind it. Not quite Fabergé, but funny. Okay, let's look at patterns real quick. You'll be happy to know the pattern video will come out this week. I promise. I'm kind of finally figuring out when I can work on filming different things. And so that will definitely come out this week. I make that promise to you about selling sewing patterns, kind of an update to an older video I did 3 years ago, if you can believe it. This is a newer Simplicity. I just picked it up based on the style, the cottagecore style. And, I tend to focus more on vintage patterns, but this one sold for $12 fairly quickly. And this is a Vogue Attitudes pattern, sold for $18. Tom and Linda Platt. A Care Bear pattern, Bedtime Bear, sold for $19. And again, I get better prices on Etsy than I would if I was selling these on eBay. The Simplicity, this is just fun. Teen, I don't sell a whole lot of juniors teen patterns. They just don't sell for as much, but this was just a fun 70s style, so that one sold for $13. And Simplicity, $16 for this chore jacket. Again, if you kind of follow the trends, I'm sorry, I keep seeing this piece of hair sticking out, and it's distracting. Not that it's not sticking out all over, but anyway, if you follow the trends, chore jackets are really popular right now. And so when I saw a pattern for it, I grabbed it, $16, that sold for. And I do pretty well with these patterns that are like matching dads and kids, patterns. This one was for vests, and that sold for $17. Another Vogue pattern, Anne Klein, sold for $18. Anne Klein 2 sold for $18. And this was kind of funny. Someone messaged me. I had one of these patterns for sale. I think it was the clothing outfits. And they messaged and said they wanted this pattern with the horse pattern for like $30. But I was like, I don't have the horse pattern listed. But coincidentally enough, I had just bought it the day before. And I was like, did they see? I put it on Facebook. Did they see that I had it? But it was I think they saw it someplace else on Etsy and didn't realize it was two different shops selling it. So I said, well, coincidentally, I do have that horse pattern. So I can make up a listing for you. And so I did that, and she bought it right away for $30 for both of those. And then I just wanted to share this one simplicity. I don't sell a lot of kids clothing, like I said, like the teens and the kids. The money is not usually there. This one I did list because it was such a Y2K style pattern, and again, it's still popular right now, so that one sold for $14. So that was pretty worth it for girls sizes 8 to 16. If you go over, I just wanted to share a couple Depop sales. I've been trying to up my sales over there. This sold for $10. Isn't it hilarious? It's a keychain, and it's a little Keen sandal, Newport design sandal, but I told Mr. Pishposh we have to switch it to something that shows scale, because people are going to be thinking they're just buying one sandal, and it's going to confuse people. So I took a $10 offer on that. That was just, I think Mr. Pishposh bought a bag at Goodwill for some other things, and this was like a bonus item in there. And then we sold a belt there. I think we sold it for $22. First Light, it's called. It's a nylon belt that you can adjust to fit you, and I think if you use a lighter on the end here, then, you can cut it and then it won't fray. But anyway, that's what people do, I guess. Anyway, that was it. I am so glad to have shared these sales with you. We've sold some interesting things lately, so I'm excited to get back on a more regular schedule sharing what has sold for us. And leave me a comment down below. How was your March? If you want to talk about April, I know things have kind of been up and down. They've been up and down for me. Sales are good. Sales are not so good. But they've been doing a lot better, obviously, recently, now that we're kind of back home and getting on a regular schedule of getting new items listed. So let me know how things are going for you, and I will talk to you guys soon.